Okay, so let's talk about viruses. They are these invisible forces that are constantly shaping our world. I mean, they drive evolution, they keep entire ecosystems in balance, and as we all know, they can cause global pandemics. They are everywhere, and they hide this incredible mystery right at the very edge of what it means to be alive. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
This is the big one, right? For more than 100 years, this one question has completely fascinated and stumped scientists. Are these tiny little things actually living organisms? Or are they just super complicated, non-living bits of machinery? Today, we're going to try to unpack that paradox.
So, to get to the bottom of this, we really have to start with the basics. We need to understand what a virus actually is and why it lives in this weird gray area between chemistry and biology.
When you break it down, a virus is just incredibly simple. It's basically a little piece of genetic code, DNA or RNA. Its blueprint, all wrapped up in a protein shell called a capsid. That's it. There's no cell jelly, no tiny organs doing jobs, none of the complex stuff that makes a living cell tick. It's pure information, just waiting.
All right, let's play detective for a minute. We'll start with the case against them being alive. What's the evidence that tells us viruses are not, in fact, living things?
This slide pretty much lays out the whole argument right here. A living cell, is like a bustling city. It's got an active metabolism, creating energy, it's filled with organelles, all doing specific jobs, and it can copy itself all on its own. A virus particle? It has none of that. No metabolism, no internal parts. To do absolutely anything, it has to have a host. And this right here is the key point for team non-living. If you could just have a virus particle sitting on a table, it would be as lifeless as a grain of salt. It can't move, it can't generate energy, and it certainly can't reproduce. It's just sitting there, dormant.
But, and this is a huge but, all of that changes the instant it finds a host cell. So now, let's flip the script and look at the other side of the argument, the case for viruses being alive. This is where that inert package springs into something that looks a whole lot like life. The second a virus locks onto a cell, it's like a heist movie. It injects its genetic code and completely takes over. It basically turns that cell into a zombie factory, forcing it to drop everything and just start making thousands of new copies of the virus. It's an incredibly dynamic and you could even say purposeful process.
So, okay, they need a helper, but they absolutely reproduce. And maybe even more importantly, they evolve. Viral genes are constantly mutating, changing over time. This lets them adapt, jump to new hosts, and get around our immune systems. And if you think about it, reproduction and evolution, those are two of the biggest, most fundamental hallmarks of life.
Now, to really appreciate this whole paradox, we have to zoom out. We need to get a sense of the sheer scale of viruses on our planet. Because they aren't just some biological curiosity, they are an absolutely dominant force of nature.
Just try to wrap your head around that number. That's a 10 with 31 zeros after it. It's mind-boggling. There are more individual viruses on this planet than there are stars in the entire universe we can see. They are, by a long shot, the most abundant biological entities on Earth.
And because there are so many of them, they end up playing this really interesting dual role. We all know them as the destroyers, right? The agents behind plagues like smallpox and the flu that have completely changed human history. But they're also creators. In the oceans, they're essential for regulating the microbial life that forms the base of the entire food web. But maybe their most surprising creative act is written right into our own DNA.
No, you heard that right. About 8% of the human genome is made up of leftover DNA from viral infections our distant ancestors had. And it's not just junk DNA. Some of these viral genes have been put to work for critical human functions. The gene that's essential for forming the placenta, the organ connecting a mother to her unborn child, that originally came from a virus. We are quite literally part virus.
So, after weighing all this evidence, the inert particle versus the active hijacker, the destroyer versus the creator, where do we land? What's the final verdict? In the end, there really isn't a simple yes or no, and this quote just captures it perfectly. Calling a virus a molecular parasite is key. It exists right at that intersection, completely blurring the boundaries we try to draw around life. It's not one thing or the other, it's something in between that forces us to question our definitions.
So the real takeaway here is that maybe alive and not alive are just the wrong boxes to begin with.
What viruses show us is that life might be more of a continuum, a whole spectrum of complexity, and they exist right in that fascinating, blurry space in the middle.
They force us to step back and reconsider one of the most basic concepts we have. And it really makes you wonder, if we can look at something so incredibly common and essential to our planet and still be debating what it even is, what other profound mysteries are just out there waiting for us to ask the right questions?